Do you have a child with unique needs that will be starting middle school? Are you terrified about this middle school transition? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to another episode of Thriving Special Families, where our topic today will be middle school student success. I'm your host, Crystal Sanford, speech pathologist, special education advocate, and autism mom. And I'm so happy to have my guest with us today, Dr. Cindi Britton. Hi, Cindi.
Hello.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. If you are listening to our podcast, then welcome to another episode of Thriving Special Families, where we seek to offer insight, humor, and hope along your special needs parenting journey. If you are watching us live, then welcome as well. Please feel free to add your questions or comments to the comment section, and we'll do our best to answer those along the way today. And lastly, always know, parents, that the information that is shared is for your informational purposes only. If you're in need of medical or legal advice, please do contact your professional in that area. So again, our topic is middle school transition, and I'm excited about this topic. My oldest is 10. We're in the last year of elementary school. So personally, I'm invested in this topic and this information to help us prepare for that transition. So let me introduce my good friend, Dr. Cindi. Dr. Cindi Britton has personal coaching as her second career. Her first career for over 38 years was in K through 8 public education, serving as a school principal and a teacher. Throughout her career, she served as a coach to parents and teachers and students. Cindi has met the challenge also of raising a son with ADHD and participating in numerous parent and teacher conferences in various roles as a parent, teacher, and a principal. Cindi's coaching is positive and compassionate. Now she serves as an ADHD expert. She's a coach and she supports students and families. And we're so happy to have Cindi here
Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
So, Cindi, I know you, but for those of who are not familiar with what you offer, tell us what led you. I really value story. What led you to becoming a coach after your career as a teacher and principal?
Thank you. Sure. I did, after I retired from public ed, I was sort of searching for what my next exploration would be. And then I was trained as a life coach, doing that solely for a while. And then I met a man who later became my husband who has ADHD, as well as my son who's now grown has ADHD. But probably the most compelling part was, as a principal, students with ADHD would be referred to me for discipline, but it was usually for things like disruptive in class, doesn't pay attention, bothering other kids, has forgotten the whole week's of homework, those kind of things. And as a principal, I could help to a point. But then after I retired, I found I can work with these kids and parents and help them as an outsider. So these kids with ADHD, they are not sociopaths. They are not meaning and intentionally hurting or disrupting. It's part of the disability. So then I went on to be coached as an ADHD coach, specializing in that. And that's what's been exciting to me.
That's so awesome that you were able to see a need and provide some support and feel that. And for parents, as you're listening, yes, Cindi is an expert at the area of ADHD, but I'm sure the tips that we're going to discuss today around middle school student success, they may as well also be helpful for you if your child is impacted by other unique challenges as well, such as autism, learning disabilities, and such things. So, but we're very happy that you decided to dive into the area of supporting kiddos. And what made you focus now, making a special focus on middle school students?
Well, one of the things is the parents that I've been in communication with, their kids have ADHD primarily, and they are very nervous about that child
Mhm.
moving into middle school.
Mhm.
And they say things to me like, oh, they barely can keep track of their work now. How are they going to do this with six
Yeah.
teachers?
Yeah.
And I'm nervous because the school is bigger and they're not going to just have one usually pretty nurturing elementary school teacher who knows them very well. So I just was feeling the pain of the parent, concerned about the child. So, using the background I have in education and what I know helps students, I've come up with a class and it's focused on middle school. And I know these kids may be happy and okay in an elementary school, but I know that the thought of going into a bigger school, usually more kids they haven't grown up with, kids coming from different schools. So that's what I thought, you know what? I know tools that will help. So that's my focus.
That's great, and that is very valid. I will say, as a parent of a child who my daughter has ADHD and autism, that's a big concern for me. You know, the bigger campus, navigating multiple teachers, the bigger environment, and the rigor increasing. You know, these are, I'm sure, things that parents like myself are concerned about. What are the challenges that you've seen specifically for kiddos as they have made that transition? Let's say in that sixth grade year. What are the things that have
Mhm.
come up?
I think the biggest thing is that I hear them say
Mhm.
is I can't find my assignment, or I don't remember the assignment, or I think I did the assignment, and my teacher's not happy with me because I said I did it and it didn't get turned in. But that kind of thing is multiplied now in middle school because they may have four teachers now saying the same thing. And it can just create a meltdown, quite honestly, with a child because they know they've done it and the teacher doesn't have it and it's not recorded. And then it transitions into incomplete, or then when it comes to grades, all of a sudden they've got one or two incompletes. And one of the things I teach them in my class is to calculate a GPA and to learn if you have all these assignments, but you're missing two, and
Mhm.
the teacher eventually will give you zeros for that, then what happens to your overall grade? And
Yeah.
quite honestly, it has nothing to do with how smart they are or
Mhm.
how capable they are. It's all a matter of what the teacher gets from them, they evaluate as performance. And most of these kids, if they only had to take a test, most of them would be C, B, or A range. But the
Mhm.
fact of keeping track of assignments and on time, it's very hard. I know the system. I know teachers are all very different about that, but it can just throw them for a loop because on the last test I got an A, and now she says, or he says, I only have a C, and what happened?
Mhm.
And figuring out kind of how to give them that, um, I don't know, escape net, the feeling of it's okay. We
Mhm.
have an incomplete. Is there time to do something about that?
Okay.
Do you feel you can do it or do you need more help? Sometimes they need more help
Right.
because they got frustrated and didn't do it, perhaps. Other times it may be under their desk or in their backpack or who knows where it could be. And they have to find it. That's, go on the treasure hunt to find a paper.
Oh, yeah.
So, as a parent, I'm not talking to strangers here. They know they've been through that. Where is
Mhm.
that paper?
Yes.
I know you did it. I saw you do it. So,
Mhm.
even learning strategies of where do you put the paper, and
Yeah.
saying, okay, you did it, backpack, or you did it, a certain folder. That whole pattern of learning to be sure that's in place is really important because it triples, well, let's see, quadruples in middle school.
Yeah.
And trying to help them keep those organizational skills without creating the negative feeling in the child of,
Mhm.
I can't do this, I'm a failure, the teacher says I'm not good, and but bolstering them, saying, you are good, look at your other grades, look how good you are.
Mhm.
Because these are intelligent and above kids. They can do most of this work.
Yeah.
That just takes a lot of patience.
This is really great. Two important things that I've heard from you today, Cindi. One is empowerment. I really
Mm-hmm.
like how you talk about talking with the kids, teaching them about their GPA, teaching them about, what happens, cause and effect when assignments are missing. There really is a space when, as kids are moving to middle school, to start teaching them how to be their own self advocate and really
Mm-hmm.
empowering them with tools. So that was really a really good point. And I remember, because I was a speech pathologist for 10 years in a middle school, and I remember those sixth graders when they would come in, they would be just so, deer in headlights sometimes, during that first month.
Yeah.
And I would spend, as a speech pathologist, I would spend the first month and we would talk about, what is an IEP? You have one. Why?
Uh-huh.
What are your unique needs? What are your strengths and challenges? What are your IEP goals? Who's your case manager? Who do you go to if you need help? I thought that that was really valuable information. And we were working on language and social at the same time, but really I was trying to begin to empower these young people with information about themselves that can help them better advocate for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. So I
One
really
of
like.
the things that I do also in the class that I teach is just like you said. Teachers are going to start saying, well, you're grown up, you need to be independent. That's true. We want to build that independence and empowerment.
Mhm.
One of the things I talk to kids about is communicating with a teacher. In other
Yeah.
words, if they need extra help or they might need another copy of something that
Mhm.
is gone with the wind somewhere, but how can they talk to a teacher? When's a good time?
Yeah.
What's a good way to do it? You
Mhm.
know, sugar instead of vinegar.
Mhm.
And, you know, just an understanding teachers are very busy people. They care about you, but they have a lot of things to think about. So we talk about that. What might be the best way you could talk to your science teacher? And is that after school, after class, emailing? And
That's so
as
great.
I've worked with kids in this age group, they begin to get that. And one of the things we honor is the fact one of my classes, the little girl said, hey, I emailed my teacher and she responded and she's now showing me what to do. I mean,
Great.
it just builds the confidence. I can
Mhm.
do this. I can talk to my teacher later. I know how to do this. And after they do, they always come out better and
Yeah.
more confident so they can ask the next teacher.
That's so great. That's so awesome to be able to see that confidence build in our young people. Then they're so better prepared for high school, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there it's almost an expectation that they can be independent, navigate things. And so if we can equip them with some tools in middle school, they'll just be that much more prepared for high
Right.
school.
Mm-hmm.
So, parents, if you're just joining us, welcome to our episode today of Thriving Special Families, where our topic is middle school student success. So, if you're parenting a child with ADHD, Dr. Cindi is your expert. Also, if you have kiddos who might have multiple diagnoses, then
Mm-hmm.
again, you're going to get some good tips here today. And I always know that our show is sponsored by Sanford Autism Consulting. You can reach us for IEP advocacy support at sdautismhelp.com. So,
Mm-hmm.
Cindi, the other piece that was really important that you shared was that kiddos with ADHD, and I would, venture to say that kiddos with a variety of unique needs are not being bad. They're not doing things on purpose. They're not trying to irritate you, teacher, or even you, parent. I teach a class to parents every month, and this is one of the things that I share that kids who have behavior challenges, they're not doing it on purpose. They're not trying to be a bad kid per se. They
Mm-hmm.
have a neurological difference that, as a result, impacts their ability to navigate the world. And so
Mm-hmm.
we need to look at, well, what are these things that are going on? how can we teach them maybe some replacement behaviors, some other options that could work, and then watch them thrive. And so I love that you're coming from a space that, many of our kiddos cognitively are very high. Their thinking, their learning skills are great, but their organization skills may be not so strong. Being able to problem solve could be a challenge for some of our kids. So these are the areas I think the critical thinking skills. I think you support those areas for our kids.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, Cindi, what are some tips for parents? Okay, I want parents to leave here with some takeaways. And we've already talked about some, teaching them about their needs, teaching them how
Mhm.
to talk to that teacher that they're having trouble with. What are a couple more tips for parents whose kiddos are going to be beginning middle school?
Take a deep breath.
Definitely.
We're used we're used to getting that backpack ready at the door. They need to transition into having it ready by wherever your landing zone is, where you go in and out of your home, your apartment, wherever there's some space. Just helping to get them in the habit of getting that by that landing place so that as they rush out the door, they've got it there. That's one tip. I call it a landing place. So, sports equipment can land there, but it's things that they have to go back and forth with. The other thing is they're going to have challenges, and to just create some space as a parent, and not easy to do in a fast paced world that we have, but if they all of a sudden start to tell you of a problem, to somehow try to breathe yourself and give them the space to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because, it'll never be convenient for you when all of a sudden this kid's kind of, I don't know if I want to say exploding, not necessarily, but kind of downloading whatever happened at school.
Yeah.
And you usually don't have to come up with a solution, but it gives them the space to talk about what happened and to know my mom, my dad, they get it. I mean, just for them to know that they understand me and where I am.
I love that. So
And
parents, listen and take notes. I love the first tip, which was have a landing space, have a specific space, a box, a cubby somewhere where everything that needs to go back and forth from school stays there. We've done that in my home. We don't have a big space, but we have a space where the backpack always goes. And there's a box near there. So other stuff that needs to go back and forth to school goes there. And so whenever something's missing, I always say, did you look in the box? Did you look in the backpack area? So having that consistency when you have a kid that's a bit scattered, that can help a lot. And then also, I love this mindful parenting tip, and I know that that's something that you're big about in helping parents to really breathe and take a space to listen to your child. I was just this weekend having a conversation with a mom. She's a friend of mine. She's a special ed teacher, and she has 20 and 22-year-old children now. And she said something that she has done since they were around this time is to listen. And she feels like that one of the reasons why she has such a good relationship with her kiddos, even now as 20-year-olds, is because she took that time to listen, and not to listen just for the sake of giving advice, but to listen just to be a sounding board. Sometimes kids will talk things through and they'll come up with their own answer.
Right.
So
And they do need to come up with their own answer. I know as a
Mhm.
life coach, the big difference between life coaching and teaching is that you're coaching them to come up with their own answer, which quite honestly may be very different than as a parent I would give as an answer.
Right.
So, and they will feel better if it's something they come up with that's doable to them, what's doable and reasonable to them.
That's so
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe we're asking some guiding questions. What do you think would happen if, or, if this happens, then what are you going to do maybe as in plan B, but really allowing them to fill in the blanks for themselves. In middle school, this is a great time to do that. So, Cindi, as you have now been in your practice for some years, what's something that you've learned along the way that maybe, wow, I wish I knew this as a coach when I was first getting started? Is there any, maybe tips or something that you've learned along the way?
I think one of the biggest things has been how important it is to give parents space. I
Mm,
mean, our
mhm.
parents are jumping from work to another activity. Something's coming in on the phone, a text. We get so controlled by that
Mhm,
because,
mhm.
fortunate or unfortunate, a lot of information is coming in that way. Some important, some not important, but we are compelled to look.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I'm a sense of how stressful that can be as a parent, and to be able to find, it's a stress to kind of find some downtime or non-electronic time when even the parent can breathe. And I
Right.
feel like that's dramatic right now.
Yeah.
um, I was talking to a parent of a high school student I was working with. She's at the track meet trying to watch her son compete, as well as schedule something with me, as well as communicate with the teacher. I mean,
Yeah.
just to listen to what she's trying to do.
Mhm.
So that's just something I know that I don't know the answers for these parents, but I need to give them some space as a
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
And then in turn, they need to give their own child some space. And it feels good when they can have that space, that uninterrupted space,
Yeah.
with me as a coach. That's important to give them. And I mean, this is maybe funny, but using Zoom, quite honestly, in the
Mhm.
last 2 years, 3 years, to use it as a tool, understand its pros, its cons, what is good about being able to be remote but still see
Mhm.
people, and what are the downsizes? What do we need to shore up and be sure we do some other things too? So that's been a little bit of it's good and it's a challenge at the same time.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
I will
what,
say that, I've been there in those situations where you're trying to give one eye to your kid when they're in that lesson, and then you're trying to schedule, answer emails, all that stuff. So,
Mhm.
like you said, for parents, I think that mom guilt, because, we're talking to
Oh
moms all
yeah.
the time, don't give in to that mom guilt. I had a wonderful guest last week who talked about that you are your own guru for your family.
Mhm.
You know your family best. You know what works. You don't know everything. Of course, there's experts in certain areas, but you do honor that you know well
Mhm.
about your own family. You have a gut intuition about how to support them. And so don't give in to mom guilt. Maybe your kid needs something. Maybe your kid does need something. Maybe you have to check that email. Hey, check the email. If you got to do that, and don't feel guilty about it. So, not giving into the
Mhm.
mom guilt and really honoring the fact that you do know maybe more than you realize about how to
Mhm.
support your kiddos.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
was talking to a parent, and I said, well, the difference sometimes is, you can read books and hear ideas,
Mhm.
but you need to couple that with
Yeah.
what
That's
you know
true.
about you, what you know about your child, and think about what's best in your family situation.
That's wonderful.
That's
Very
so
true.
true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
true.
So, parents, if you are watching us live, feel free to add any questions to the comment section before we end our time together. We'll try to answer those. I love what you're sharing, Cindi, for parents. Parents, I hope you're catching this. We've talked about empowering kids with tools so that they can become their self advocate. We've talked about having a landing space so that we know where things are as they go back and forth from school. We've talked about giving your kid a space just to talk, just to be a listener. Something else that I can think about is also back in working in middle school is that organization system. And
Mhm.
sometimes parents, it could be that you're going to have to reach out for some assistance, maybe from the school. So if your kid has an
Mhm.
IEP, you can access the occupational therapist, the OT, because that person can help your child develop an organizational system. Maybe they can trial different kinds of binders or folders or tabs on a computer, those kind of things, um, to see what might work for your kiddo. So that can be helpful. So use your resources, reach out to your OT so that, you get some things in place in school. And then you may reach out to people like Cindi to help with the home, the school to home situation. So maybe notebooks, and we've done this with my own daughter. OT's been helpful with my own daughter. Different kind of binders. Okay, this one's not working. Maybe we need to have one that opens this way or has folders that are color coded for every class, maybe.
Yes.
Any suggestions that way, Cindi?
Well, I think that I really focus on using a student agenda or an assignment calendar that's actually the whole year, and they can be purchased, or some middle schools actually give them to kids, but kids have to be encouraged to use them. And for an ADHD child who has enough trouble keeping a track of multiple papers, to use a assignment calendar where it has all their periods, and in math, they have to do page 290, problems 1 through 20 or 1 through 50 even. They'll think, oh, I'll remember that. But guess what? They get home and they're going, okay, I think it was this page, but I don't quite remember which problems. And so taking just a split second to write that assignment rather than on your hand or your back of your hand or a random piece of paper to put it in that assignment calendar. It takes some practice to get into the practice of doing that. But that's one piece that really helps. As far as folders and binders, boy, it's almost child specific. I've heard several different ideas, but it's nice if you can get child input. And sometimes it depends. Does their science teacher give them lots of pages of things so they have to have a place, a folder to put them? Or is that a teacher that sends them online for everything so they don't have to have a lot of papers? So they kind of have to know. Another thing that Crystal has mentioned, I know, is that in that first month of school, when you're on an IEP to do teacher contact, and even though they may have 6 teachers, maybe choose the 1 or 2 that you know are going to be the most challenging, and be sure you check and say, well, FYI, they are on an IEP or 5.0 fair, and these are modifications or accommodations. And just a little tickler reminder, because they have a lot of kids. And yes, they're supposed to be focused on what's in their IEP, but that little tickler phone call from you as the parent, and maybe not all 6 teachers, but maybe the couple classes that you know are critical to your child's success. So Crystal's talked about this before, but I really encourage that because that will help.
That's super important to make that contact. And sometimes I've told parents, maybe you need to request an IEP meeting. Maybe you have one around October. You've given all 6 teachers or 7, however many is time to read your child's IEP, be familiar with it, but have that sit down meeting to hold everybody on the team accountable. What are my kids' accommodations? Are they starting to receive them? Are they working this year? Do they need something different? So, starting with an email, phone call is a wonderful idea. Thanks for reminding us, Cindi, of that. And if necessary, maybe also requesting a meeting. We've got a parent who's watching, and she's really giving us some great tips and feedback here. We have Jean, who has shared that, sometimes it sounds outlandish, but kids know their own skills as well. So she talks about listening and allowing them to act. And Jean is parenting an adult. She's now an adult. She has ADHD, but she gave an example that her daughter wanted to be a designer and she needed a sewing machine, although she had never even sewn before in her life. Well, later her daughter did become a designer. Now she has ADHD and she's very successful as a designer and a flight attendant. But her daughter needed to figure out what it was going to take to do that thing. And I see this a lot with our kiddos with ADHD. They're visionaries. They have great ideas, but they're not great at implementing the little steps to get those things to come out, right? And so that's why they partner very well with people who are real detail oriented. And if you put those together, you could do something phenomenal, right? So maybe a kid will come to you and say, hey, Mom, I want to do this, or hey, I've got this report that's due in a month. I got it handled. And they got great ideas about it. But the going from idea to actually seeing the manifestation of that, it may take some help, and it may take some conversations with you for the child to see, oh, wait, I really do need to do X, Y, Z to get there. So kind of
Mhm.
being that sounding board, like we talked about, will allow your child to flesh out the details to get some of their visions, into reality.
Mhm.
So thank you
One
so
of
much
the
for
things
sharing,
they
Gina.
do with their, oh, I'm sorry, with their calendar is if it's really hard if they have a project not due for a month, because
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I kind of know what I'm going to do. But one of the things the calendar does is I have them write when it's due and kind of count back the days
Mhm.
and check in with them. Okay, now we're down to 3 weeks left,
Yeah. Yeah.
2 weeks, and you wanted to do these things. Maybe we could calendar them in there.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a weekend we need to focus on this. So, um, helping them learn those structures
Yeah.
is going to be not only good for middle school, but they're going to have to figure out some kind of structure in life, whether it be a calendar or some system of to-do lists or whatever. So we're just helping them learn those and guide them along. But long-term projects are difficult for the neurotypical and very difficult
Yeah.
for an ADHD child.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a perfect time for parents to intervene a little bit once in a while.
Yeah, and it's just it's how their brains work. Like I said, I really celebrate the creativity and the vibrancy of the ideas and the
Mhm.
movement things that they can do. But they, like you said, as they get older, are going to need to develop some skills to put in place to fill in the gaps of the areas where they're not as
Mhm.
strong. Um,
Yes.
and then a final comment here from Jean. She is actually a teacher. I know Jean, and she's learned to treat each student as an individual. I think that's a very great
Mhm.
point. Is that every child has their unique strengths and challenges, and if we can take some time, we can see how to again shore up those areas of weakness so that their strengths can shine. So I think that's really, really valuable. I think about in our final moments here. I'm thinking about Michael Phelps. And I think about,
Mhm.
the Olympic swimmer and Simone Biles, who's struggling right now. And I think both of them are doing a great job of bringing to light mental health matters
Mhm.
and how that really can impact individuals, but especially those who have so much on their shoulders. But I think about them for that reason, but also I think about them because of their ability to be successful in the midst of their unique challenges. So both of them are diagnosed with ADHD. And
Mhm.
so both of them have had that struggle. I know Simone, she still is on medication for that. But in the midst of that, they've been able to thrive. They are the most decorated, I think, Olympic athletes in our country ever. I think I'm,
Mhm.
maybe misquoting. And so I use both of them as examples when I talk to kids about, that getting down their self. Sometimes that happens in middle school. And when I used to teach in schools, I had a bulletin board with all types of famous people who had unique challenges. And I would always point out and say, hey, you're struggling with the same thing that Michael Phelps is, that Simone Biles is, and look where they are. You know,
Right.
because you have a challenge doesn't mean that has to limit you. And don't let that limit
Mhm.
you. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think we've had some great conversation today, Cindi. I'm so glad
Yeah.
that you were able to be here and help us learn about tips for supporting middle school student success. Uh,
Thank you.
how can parents contact you, Cindi, if they're interested in the program and the services that you offer?
Well, an easy way is to just contact me via an email, or there's a phone number there listed. You could text, call. Um, I do support middle schools, and I am doing a program called I Got This Middle School Student Success. And I've created a hybrid because students learn differently and need different types of things. So I'm including both 10 modules, which are short, like 10 to 15 minute on a topic like how to do your GPA. But
Oh,
also, then the other piece of that is meeting every week for 9 weeks with the cluster of students on Zoom, where they can talk about this work, that didn't work, I can't figure this out, but I did figure this out and it made a difference. So
awesome.
I'm offering that. I have a early bird discount of minus $50 if you sign up by August 21st. And I'm looking forward to it. A delight of this job is the kids.
Yeah.
They listen to each other. They give each other ideas. So the weekly Zoom meeting, I feel, is really important. It's called the Coach Connection. It's for the kids. If the parents want to communicate with me, they can email or text, and we can have an offline chatter about what's going on or some specific needs. But this is directly for the kids. So I'm very excited, and kids are wonderful little humans, and they are learning to be independent on their own, and giving them a few tools just helps to bolster them up a little bit.
Well, this is great. So parents, if you do have a middle schooler, I'd encourage you just to reach out to Cindi, if nothing else, for, a free consult where you guys can discuss maybe some supports for your child. She's a wealth of information in a variety of topics. So feel free to reach out to Cindi, and her website, for those who are listening and not able to access the video, is CoachBrittonADHD.com. So Coach Britton ADHD.com. And so awesome. Thank you. We have a parent that is appreciative of the information. She has a student going to junior high, 7th grade. So so happy that you're able to get some great information today. Awesome.
Great.
So thanks again, families. Always remember that you're going to be okay, and your child is going to be okay too.
Yes.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks again, Cindi.
Take care. Bye.